Ethiopia is endowed with numerous tourist attractions ranging from physical to cultural, all of which are important for country's tourism development. In this episode, we'll be discussing the tourism activities in Ethiopia in general and Oromia in particular.
Tourism needs a safe situation to allow tourists to travel across the world. So our country, globally, the COVID situation hasn't been good for the tourism market in general. But added to that, our country has been in a difficult situation because of the conflict in the north, as you mentioned earlier. But after the recent peace deal was held, so things are now changing. But it's not long since this happened, but there is much hope and bringing more tourists to the country. As you heard, you may not, you might be able to note from the projection of the IMF that the Ethiopian economy would grow in double digits, even as never before, like 13 point something. So that is not just a projection without including tourism sector. So having this Ethiopian Airlines being the host for African Union headquarter, and also being a diplomatic city, the fourth largest diplomatic city, and also having all the favorable conditions for tourism, and having 9 UNESCO registered tangible and intangible assets, and being a country that has coffee for the first time. With all these assets, Ethiopia still has much to give to the world. The tourism market is still now is looking much better, so we look forward to seeing the best achievements in the coming few months, I can say.
Yeah, as you all know, I've been serving as a Miss Tourism Oromia 2021, and I was working as a brand ambassador to Oromia Tourism Commission too. But now this year, I went to another step, which is representing the region to East Africa, Oromia Tourism Ambassador to East Africa, which is a pleasure to represent such beautiful land of diverse beauty. As our logo indicates, land of diverse beauty, which means it is diversified with so many things: the climate, the birds, the landscape itself is so beautiful. You will see, especially if you take good example, which is Bale Mountains, which is a park with so many worlds. In some of places you just go to see something specific, but when you go to Bale Mountains, you see endemic birds, which is endemic to the country, at the same time which is endemic to the region, endemic to the park. And that's the best part about that. And there are so many wildlife. It's a home to red fox, which made our country popular to the world. And then if you go to the other side, which is Wanji Crater Lake, which was being selected as the best tourism village worldwide. And then when you come to the other side of Oromia, as we know, it's home to athletics, which have made us proud worldwide. The climate, everything is suitable for the visitors too. So we can say, welcome to Land of Diverse Beauty. Yeah, that's how I can explain about Oromia, Land of Diverse Beauty.
One of the major indicators is government's attention towards tourism. Previously, tourism has not been on the list. Hasn't been considered as one of the enabling factors for fast economic development. So in recent years, especially since after the reform, the government considered tourism as one of the economic pillars. So not only that, putting tourism as one of the economic pillars per se isn't the only indicator, but also the commitment from the government side is also important. So as everybody can see, there are mega projects that has been going since 2019-20. So the Dine for Shaggar project has brought us Entoto and Unity Park projects, which is generating a lot. As the Prime Minister himself reported to the Parliament last time, the Unity Park alone has been generating hundreds of millions of birr to support newly inaugurated project of Bennett Unity Park, so which is now including the Science Museum and also the Entoto project as well. These all together are making great addition to the economy. So the Dine for the Nation project also is another indicator. So this multi-billion birr investment being undertaken in Amhara, Southwestern and Oromia region. The three mega projects are now going to be inaugurated in few months. So this addition also is going to bring more tourists to the places. You know, for us we have got the natural assets, but we haven't worked on destination development. So destination development entails the aids. I mean, there are a lot of aids they list. I mean, from literature to literature, they say some of them say 3 and 4 and 5. Even they add the numbers. But anyhow, at least accommodation is very important for a tourist to have unforgettable time and a destination. The other thing is amenities for tourists, accessibility, activities are important. If there is attraction is already given naturally, so you make it 5. So for that attraction, the attraction should be accessible. So there needs infrastructure. The internet, road access, electricity, and other more facilities are important to access the attraction. So if you have only this, it would not be enough. So you need accommodation. So where would the tourists stay, and what would they eat, and what kind of activities are they going to do are important. So now tourism is not something that you export. I mean, you sell services, you sell products as sorts of activities. So the activities are not tangible, but people enjoy. So they go back home with the stories. So the most important thing is telling the stories and just making their times unforgettable, memorable times. Plus, there are micro enterprises that can be enabled through this sector. So with all this integration makes macroeconomy a realization, a success. So the commitment so far has shown us some tangible and successful projects of this, the Dine for Shaggar, and for Nation, and other more efforts are being undertaken. Plus, the regional government of Oromia is also working on its side in attracting foreign investors and also local domestic investors to invest in the tourism sector. So these all things would make more value, would add more value to the tourism development.
The country and the region itself, in Ethiopia as a country and in a regionally in Oromia, the potential is there. To mention a few, with headlines of historical, cultural, and the natural attraction side, what we have. Naturally, really, Ethiopia is endemism, and the endemism country, which is, it shows a uniqueness of the country as naturally, it's naturally gifted land with diversity of altitude we have. From Tuludim to up to the arid land, we have different altitudes. So it invites the land itself, the nature itself invites with a different strata of altitude. That is why we are favored with different species of agricultural with its activity of man and its environment, while naturally there are different attractions. To mention a few again, with this natural gifted, I have to mention protected area what Ethiopia has, that is almost more than 24 protected areas and naturally controlling sites, natural controlling hunting sites, as well as natural protected areas. When we mention it, there are so many parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and the nature reserve site. These are the major issue why it is designated because of its gifted land.
Nationally, the data is generated through the Immigration Authority and other federal chapters. But as the Ministry of Tourism reported recently, more than 500,000 tourists have come to the country. The domestic tourism in itself has a lot to be reported, but you don't find accurate data regionally, because the definition by itself as a tourist and not being a tourist hasn't been separately disaggregatedly put in terms of figuratively. So that would mislead any person who is looking for an accurate data. But domestic tourism is being now in a good condition, I can say, because of the flourishing small scale, small and micro enterprises, tourism enterprises with hiking groups is working more, especially in 100 and 150 kilometer radius from Finfinne. So Oromia's share from the national tourists still is not as it has supposed to earn, but in terms of the conference tourism side, we can say towns like Adama and Bishoftu are making more from the domestic tourism market in terms of attracting more conferences, meetings, and etc. And also pilgrimage tourism by itself is also another important thing. As you know, our country is known for its religious society. People travel a lot for spiritual purposes. You can mention, for example, Qulubi, Debre Libanus, and other places where domestic tourists often travel for spiritual matters, but still we consider them as tourists as well. So with this all, we have gotten much progress. The travel culture is very good in a sense, but for us to have an accurate statistical data to say is a bit controversial. There are different counters, so we are trying to make more accurately registered data for us. So as for the national data, we rely on the Ministry of Tourism's data, which says 500,000 tourists have come to Ethiopia to visit.
It is a pleasure to represent the biggest region in the country, which is Land of Diverse Beauty, as we said. It is a pleasure to represent such a big nation, Land of Diverse Beauty too again. And so I feel so honored to represent and to work with one of the hard-working organizations which has achieved within 2.5 years, and I'm really glad to be part of this journey. I'm glad. It's really a pleasure to represent this region, actually. Yeah.
In our side, we are trying all our best. We are using the digital platform to give information for tourists, both domestically and globally. So people often get the information from our pages. Our social media pages are very active. We do regular posts daily, at least 3 times a day, with more information for tourists. Our websites we have 2 websites. Our websites are very interactive, so they are machine AI enabled. So they have machine learning, so it has chatbots. So any tourist can do an online chat without the presence of anyone. So they can get information. That is also important. So with this, our role is mainly to enable the tourism market to be more functional in the region. So the federal chapter by itself is doing the national affairs, national issues, by representing the country globally. We, on our side, are working very hard to bring the tourism attractions in the region into attention of tourists and give more information. So it has worked for us so far. There are feedbacks from different tourists and organizations and even the general public. So we can say we have tried the best of our capacity to make these tourism attractions known to everyone. And we are also working on that. I mean, we have used the Google Art and Culture platform to promote the nature, history, and culture of Oromia on Google platform. That's also an addition to our websites.
As I've told you earlier, I grew up in Nairobi, Kenya, which is home to East African community, which helps you to know more about the community, about the society of East Africa. So for me, it would be like going back to my childhood, telling people about telling to people of East Africa about Oromia, where I am from, where we are from. So that made it easier for me growing up in East African community. So we just started our journey. I just started my journey of representing the region to East Africa. We started with Rwanda, and we went to Rwanda to attend and while representing Oromia for Rwanda Tourism Week, and it was very successful. We won Best International Exhibitor, which is a good beginning to start the journey. And working with Oromia Tourism Commission makes everything easier, literally, because it's one of the organizations which is ambitious and committed for the goal they set to promote Oromia. One of the things is there is nothing as good as representing your own people, your own region. And the second part is like this tourism is all about traveling, enjoying, telling people that your good side. So that's like working as while I'm enjoying my passion, it's like working with my passion, yeah.
Well, countries like Kenya and Tanzania have a very well-established system to make the tourism sector very functional and regionally and globally competent. So it has a lot of factors that are important for the development of tourism. The first thing, their governments have accepted tourism as a very important sector in the economy, an important player in the economy. That consideration is really important. That means there is much more political commitment from their government side. So with that, they have got institutions. The institutions are the very important components to make the tourism strong. So the private sectors also play a major role in promoting tourism, because when it becomes a business, it becomes an industry. When it is industry, it is a systemic. So it works. It is economy. It generates economy. It's industry. So everybody can benefit from that. The media benefits from that. The private sector benefits from that. The youth, the community, everybody has stake in it. The parks are, the national parks are branded. All of them have websites in Kenya if you go. Hotels, the service industry is very well developed. They've got hotel and tourism institutions which play also the major role in improving the service sector. And transportation is very good. So people know more about tourism. I mean, the general public knows about tourism. So this kind of, being on the same page is important for the growth of tourism. So the recently I mean, the new trends in Rwanda also tells us this. They have got specific products, but they are exhaustively working on that to promote their tourism, and it has got serious attention from the government, from higher government officials, from the president himself. So when you come to Ethiopia, we have to compare what we have and what others have, and what we did and what others did. So for me, I don't want to compare Ethiopia with Kenya or Tanzania. We have our own way of doing our things, but still there are things we need to learn from them. But still we have got also, not relatively, absolutely, a great advantage for us to work on. Ethiopian Airlines is a very, very important asset Ethiopia ever has to do tourism, because we have got destinations across the world in terms of number, the bigger number, like more than 100 destinations the airlines flies. It's also giant, the African giant. So we can capitalize on that. So back home, what we should do, what do we have? We have got infrastructure. Honestly, the road infrastructure is not on a good status, at least the existing one. I mean, we need to add more, yes, we agree, but we have to improve. I mean, we have to use the existing infrastructure. And institution-wise, that is one of our, I mean, biggest weakness in terms of having strong associations, strong federations, and chambers. Because the strengths of these countries, I mean, the countries I mentioned earlier, is on their institutions. The institutions do the tourism business very seriously, and they generate huge amount of money. It is not just a business as usual, but it's a very serious business. For us, Bali Park alone, I mean, I'm just saying regionally, Bali Park alone has a huge potential to represent the entire Oromia alone, if we just don't mention the others. But we don't only have Bali, equally we have Borana Park, which is really beautiful. We've got the Atiole National Park. We have got Abjata Shala. We've got Awash Park. I mean, we share this park with Afar region. We have got Alaidegi Asabut National Park. Still, we share it with Afar regional state. We have gorgeous rivers, lakes. You know, we've got mountains, the Kofi, and Ilubawur and Jemma, Wellega, Guji, some parts of Shawa, and even some parts of Arzi as well. Coffee tourism alone makes huge. We've got endemic animals and birds, which are only found in Oromia. Even within Ethiopia, still endemic to Oromia and endemic to the specific places, which I could mention, like Bali, Borana, if you say. But the attention from the government has been very serious, and which is really excellent. But what should we expect within 4 years? I mean, the countries you asked me to compare have worked for decades. We just working for 2 years. Like, for example, Oromia Tourism Commission is just 2 years old. What can we do apart from establishing the institution? Here we are establishing the institution, and on the other side we are doing the daily operations, which is a difficult job by itself. So we need institutions. So institutions in our country sometimes want to rely on government, but whether the government exists or the political system or the political party or the leading regime, whether it exists or doesn't, institutions should exist forever, because they are very important element in nation building as well, and economic building. So the question is not just for you and for me, it's for the general public itself. So would you be able to find a strong hotel association? Would you be able to find a strong tour operators association? Would you be able to find maybe any association which is strongly working. So if you ask, I'm sorry to say, you cannot find them. So is it the role of the government to establish a association? No. It's the role of the private sector itself. So with this disintegrated manner, I can't tell you that we are going to achieve this. But for us, we're trying all our best to strengthen the associations just by providing every support, because they are very important.
As you know, I was working as a brand ambassador, so it's all about telling more what this organization is doing. So it makes working with this organization made everything easy. So that's the thing. All I can say. Yeah.
Let's say the water tower of Bali Mountain National Park, which is as a candidate for registration under UNESCO, and again at the Rift Valley site we have Abiata Shala National Park, and with the area of endemism site, I have to mention, I'm forced to mention Borana National Park, as well as the first area which was protected and as a candidate of gazetted area is Awash National Park, and others are Sinqile Swain Head Beast Sanctuary, which is a model for natural community-based Gada system conservation, and it contributes for Africa to be a model how Gada cultural controlling natural conservation approach is, you know, the first research center. So I mentioned the Swainhurst Beast Sanctuary area, as well as Walal area, the Dati Walal is, which is not only at national level, but it is interboundary with Sudan, and really a unique land for especially wildlife sites. So this just to mention the number, not the number, but as a model which I have to mention. And so naturally we are gifted Ethiopia, and by the name of Ethiopia, which contributes is the largest part is Oromia, is gifted land. The region is contributor potential for the site. For example, in Ethiopia, as a professional, which I personally contribute as ornithologist or bird watching area, Oromia region, it favors to stay for bird watching 21 days. That is the largest, the medium, the short, and the daily tourist site for birds, as well as other activities that are there. Just to mention a few part of the natural, while culturally and historically, the country also, I can say it's a gifted land. For example, culturally, to mention just in conservation area, even the Gada system, it contributes. Again, I can mention most of Ethiopian sites, when it's already deforested, due to the culture what we have, in line with the Gada system, the area by itself is conserved. So culturally, conservation is in line with man and the wildlife conservation harmony approach. So this is a good example to generalize and to pose as how conservation, it's a model for Africa, even it contributes. And historically, how people in their own history, with different strata of the background history up to current situation, how man and the wildlife, man and the with his environment as state, as historical part. For example, not only conservation of natural parts, let's say the activity of agritourism, how peoples are dealing with agricultural activity in line with their history, how they have their own lifestyle, the wedding ceremony, what they have, the sympathy of what they have, the cultural, the interaction with their environment, history, their historical background contributes in Ethiopia. So potentially, historically, naturally, and all-rounded activity is Ethiopia is favored for the land of tourism industry. But when I say as a tourism science, when I compare and contrast with this issue of potential what we have, which hit my mind is that to mention neighboring country like Kenya, Tanzania and others, they utilize their resource. For example, I was a student at Tanzania. I know the area of Serengeti land, which was a research center, Ngorongoro, Nakuru, and the Kilimanjaro Mountain National Park. Those parks are huge industry of tourism. Let's say daily, by quota of yearly, how they utilize their resource. They have a good strategic plan for managing the tourism industry. But with such type, what I mentioned about tourism potential, what we have, but we are not utilized properly. The reason is that, for example, the reason is that the curriculum of Ethiopia is not integrated in the educational system. This is what hindered the situation. For example, in Ethiopia contributes for the first time protected area that is nearby, which was almost 54 kilometers, is Subba area. Subba Nature Reserve is the first protected in Africa. Just I'm so sorry that not only me personally, other professional and as a citizen, since we are contributing for conserving at prehistory and currently what we are utilizing somewhat different. Based on that Subba site, other countries, they utilize their resource properly. So we are a model to protect, we are a model to conserve and preserve, but utilization is very, we are utilized in few, and again, always I'm not blaming the community. We ourselves as a national, but the problem is the curriculum of itself, the awareness issue, the proper utilization. If somebody is not educated, how you blame? Then this is the problem what we have. It's a bottleneck, but potentially, just in the future, but to conserve and preserve means for the next generation we have a good potential, and I hope we can utilize properly in the future.
The goal of this organization is to promote Oromia and to show the true color of Oromo and Oromia. The goal is that. So as you can see, we have tried to represent Oromia within one organization. We are very diversified, open-minded, youth with a good leader. So that will help us more to represent Oromia in a good way, in a good representative way. And the other thing is that nobody should miss to visit land origin of coffee, which is origin from Oromia. Come and have your sip of coffee in the origin of coffee. And the other message is the more you travel is the more you see the beauty of that land. So travel within Oromia, not wherever you hear from media may not be true. Come and see the true color of Oromia. That's what I would like to say. And the other part is that I would like to thank this organization, and at the same time I would like to thank all the Oromo people or anybody who is living in Oromia, which are trying to invest in Oromia, which are trying to showcase Oromia in a good way. I would like to appreciate them too. So, and my last message will be, let's promote Oromia, let's promote whatever we have, let's protect what we have as a natural resource. Let's invest in our own country and let's shine together. I believe like one of the achievements I believe that I achieved, one of the things that I see as an achievement is working with such hardworking and outstanding organization. For me, it was more of learning. I learned so much from this organization. Like it made like one of the, it changes with so many of my opinion that I had through tourism. They're very ambitious, hardworking. It is really pleasure to work with them, yeah.